Hi guys, this is Matt with Patriot Hobbies. This is the Aurora Model Motoring Service Manual for the Thunderjet 500 with fabulous pancake motor. Sterling Moss says, when it comes to tabletop racing, model motoring leads the course. It's the closest thing to real auto racing in the world. This pamphlet starts out with a two-page introduction and then leads into track layouts, track pieces, electrical pieces, cars, inventory of cars, and finally it has a giant list of hobby shops that existed back in the 60s that's in the back. I thought I would read the opening two pages, and then I've also taken pictures of all the pages and uploaded them here so that you guys can see them as I read through this. The story of the automobile. The story of the automobile, if told in detail with proper weight given to every factor responsible for its existence, would have its beginning shrouded in the unknown pages of the past and would have no true ending because of the constant changes and improvements. We could begin with primitive man, thousands of years ago, and in his invention and development of the first log-hewn version of the wheel, and continue through the centuries telling of the Scythe-bearing war chariots and the ornate carriages of the late Middle Ages. Then to the horseless carriages of our grandparents' time, and conclude with the experimental solar-charged electrical cars of the present day. We would find it necessary to cover all important items contributed to the advancement of the automobile, viz. The discovery of iron and steel for the roller bearings, the story of oil, so vital to lubrication, the outline of rubber, first the hard rubber tires and then the pneumatic tires, and we would have to include a resume of the energy, genius, expanse, and heartbreak of the untold numbers of men devoting virtually their entire lives to the development of the automobile. Man continued in his drive to create a machine that could move itself without the help of the wind, without human or animal muscle. The automobile must have a propelling mechanism of its own. In 1670, a Dutch scientist, Christian Huygens, and a French inventor, Dionysius, experimented with an explosive engine run by steam, with a piston and cylinder principle, but could not make the cylinder go in both directions to result in the reciprocating engine. Even Sir Isaac Newton, in 1680, invented a toy horseless carriage. And a century later, in 1770, a French army officer, Nicolas Joseph Cugnot, built a three-legged steam-powered locomotive. Although crude, for the first time in history, man had invented a machine that would move itself. In the 1880s, the railroad matured, and with it the steam engine. In 1801, Richard Trevithick successfully operated the first steam-powered automobile in his native town of Camborne in Devonshire, England. The use of these steam-powered vehicles was considered too dangerous and resulted in the famous Red Flag Locomotive Acts of 1861, 1865, and 1878. Requiring every such vehicle to be preceded by a man on foot carrying a red flag. This curtailed the development of the steam automobile in England, and further experiment moved to France and the United States. The early development of the automobile was seriously hindered because of the discomfort afforded the passengers of the vehicle. Rough roads did not encourage the public to go motoring about the country, hence the beginning of the scientific highway construction by John McAdam, an English road builder. His name has found a place in the history of the automobile, and the McAdam Road is known to everyone. White and Stanley steam automobiles were widely manufactured in the United States, and Stanley's steamer was quite popular. These steam-powered automobiles ran quietly because there was no gears or transmission. It was instantly available and maintenance was negligible. The chief objection was the possibility of a fire from the open firebox, and pioneers began to seek power from other sources, were to include the combustible engine and the electric storage battery. In 1860, Etienne Lenoir of France developed the first practical internal combustion engine, using illuminating gas as a fuel. The gas was drawn into the cylinder during part of the power stroke and fired for the rest of the stroke. Burned gas was eliminated by the return stroke. 3 years later, in 1863, Lenoir banged and rattled through Paris streets in a crude gas carriage which burned benzene. The pistons moved up and down too slowly and too noisy, and Lenoir abandoned the project. In 1876, the first of Otto and Langen built the first four-cycle engine employing the same principle as internal combustion engines of today. Dr. Nicholas A. Otto worked out the principle and had it patented in several countries. A high-speed four-cycle internal combustion engine was developed in 1885 by a German, Gottlieb Daimler, a former managing director of the Otto firm. This engine employed liquid fuel in place of the gas and was a much lighter engine. The first V engine, also the first two-cylinder internal combustion engine, was completed in 1889 by Daimler. This engine was also the first to equal the steam engine in power for its size, and created a competition that lasted a quarter of a century before the gasoline engine finally triumphed over the steam engine as the best for automotive use. Americans forged steadily ahead in the progress of the automobile. George B. Selden of Rochester, New York, was the only American to tinker with the gasoline cart before 1890. Sometimes called the father of the automobile, Selden in 1872 applied for the United States patent covering the application of an internal combustion engine for a self-propelled vehicle. The patent was not granted until 1895, and by then many inventors were using the same idea. Among American inventors was Charles B. Duryea, also called by some the father of the automobile. Charles Duryea built his Buggernaut of 1892 the simple way by merely fastening his engine under the seat of a one-horse buggy, removing the poles to which the horse was attached, installing a handle to the front wheel for steering, and turning the rear wheels with the engine. Elwood Haynes of Kokomo, Indiana, became bored with driving his slowpoke horse, and on July 4, 1894, removed the horse and installed an engine to the buggy, and rattled through the streets for the jeering and cheering crowds. Other famous Americans began work on gas cars in the 1890s, including three bicycle makers, the two Dodge brothers, and John P. Willys. Walter P. Chrysler, a railroad man, joined the automobile makers, as did the Studebaker brothers, who were carriage makers. The wheezing, horseless carriage of Ransom E. Olds and Henry Ford's rickety contraption made their contributions. Americans became car conscious, and Detroit, Michigan became the Motor City. Songs were published and people sang, "Get out and get under," and in my merry old Oldsmobile, the automobile was on its way. Then entered the age of gasoline when on January 10, 1901, Beaumont, Texas, a 160-foot geyser of gas and oil blew off a salt dome known as Big Hill and became known as the famous Spindletop, the famed Texas gusher. The dawn of the 20th century was signaling the start of the gasoline age. After 9 days and nights, plus the loss of some 500,000 barrels of oil, the well was brought under control. Electricity and steam was still the favorite power for automobiles. Oil was for cooking and illumination. Gasoline was only a byproduct of the refining process and was dumped as so much waste. Oil had dropped in price below 5 cents a barrel, but the development of the gasoline-burning internal combustion engine changed all of this, and millionaires were soon to be made. America progressed in the manufacture of the automobile, and when half of the 20th century had passed, the United States assumed leadership in production of motor vehicles. In 1951, the United States and Canada produced more than 7 million motor vehicles out of the world total of over 9 million. The social and economic life of the United States changed rapidly due to the automobile, which was once considered merely a luxury item, but today is a necessity. Yesterday's American road measured a little over 2,000 miles in 1900, but today's highways cover more than 3 million miles. Expressways, superhighways, and turnpikes are carrying increasing numbers of trucks, buses, and cars. More than 3 out of every 4 American families own automobiles. Tourist travel is creating big business in motels and restaurants. Education has advanced with the school bus transporting over 6.5 million children to school each day. Millions of Americans earn their living directly or indirectly due to the manufacture and maintenance of the automobile. The automobile found many diversified uses in military activities as far back as 1899 to 1902, when the British used motor vehicles in the South African War. Motor transportation was used as offensive and defensive weapons, greatly changing the character of war. Automobile racing has ever been a popular event. The first known took place in 1894 from Paris to Rouen, about 80 miles. 2 cars started over the 90-mile course, but only one finished, taking 8 hours and 48 minutes. The winner used 5½ gallons of gasoline, stopped 10 times for repairs, and averaged some 10 miles per hour. Although this speed seems humorous when we consider some of the speed records such as John R. Cobb's 369.7 miles per hour on the Bonneville Salt Flats, Utah, August 1923, 1939. This aroused a public interest which laid the foundation for today's great automobile races. Several types of racing autos were built for speed racing in former years for annual races for the Vanderbilt Cup in New York, 300 miles, and for the grand prize of the Automobile Club, 400 miles, as well as the famous 500-mile Indianapolis Speedway races held each Memorial Day. Today, racing holds much interest for the public, for the many manufacturers who enter their stock cars to prove the construction of their product in the grueling, grinding stock car races held everywhere. It seems the automobile is here to stay, and science is endeavoring to harness the energy of the sun and solar batteries to provide power for the electric automobiles of the future. Aurora, model motoring and HO. Aurora Plastics Corporation climaxes 4 years of engineering research and presents model motoring, the greatest new hobby concept since electric trains. Aurora Plastics Corporation climaxes 4 years of engineering research and presents the greatest conception of the model motoring hobby ever to be made available. Model motoring is far superior to any other roadway system with its rugged endurance and versatility. The many styles of vehicles in the driving lanes are purposefully scaled to actual HO size so that the hobbyist can use HO accessories for perfection in planning roadway systems. Very easily, the hobbyist can reproduce scale replicas of famous racetracks all over the world, or design and lay out exclusive racetracks with over and under flyover bridges, straightaway stretches, banked curves, tunnels, right-of-way crossovers, etc. The modern plastic-bodied autos and trucks are authentically detailed right down to the hubcaps and can attain scale speeds of 150 miles per hour or more. The rugged asphalt-like plastic roadway has a series of thin conductor strips embedded to energize the tiny miracle motor, smaller than a dime, which in turn activates the real wheels for unbelievable power and drive. Aurora model motoring offers greater potential for appealing layout system than any other due to the HO scale feature. This compact setup will allow unusual speedways on 4x12 foot and 4x8 platforms, or even a 4x4 table, and any HO size accessories will match perfectly. Sky's the limit on this wonderful new product. Drag races can be held on a competitive basis, record-breaking speed can be reached on straight stretches. Blocking on the hairpin turns may lead to crashes and pileups. Team racing can be organized for the fastest car in the area. Quarter mile, half mile, or mile distances can be accurately measured in time for recorded runs. Only the Aurora model motoring offers such year in, year out fun and excitement with a hobby to delight and entertain every age group. Only Aurora offers a wide variety of cars and trucks such as the Jaguar XK140, Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, Corvette, Thunderbird, convertibles, hardtops, station wagons, trucks with a flat body, van body or stake body, tractor trailers, etc. Model motoring operates most effectively on the Aurora DC Power Pack, model DC1, but will also operate on any 12 to 22 volts DC standard train power pack. The Aurora model motoring and HO road system can be added to your present HO train layouts. Think of it, no more dummy cars and fake roads. Now your cars and trucks will move over the highways, cross the bridges, will race your train at the crossings. Beautiful scenes and panoramas can be created with HO accessories such as houses, animals, buildings, people, etc., all in perfect scale with your model motoring. Yes, Aurora has scored again with a hobby engineered especially for participation and enjoyment. Add to this pleasure the knowledge that your HO scaled model motoring will never be obsolete. Alright guys, that's the end of this pamphlet, the reading. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day.